Most pilots are one bad collapse from disaster, and they don't even know it. Today, I'm going to review a video from YouTube to give you 3 tips on how to handle collapses correctly. Ready? Here we go. I'm an elite paraglider with over 3,000 flight hours and multiple distance records. Founder of the Paragliding Men's Group, where great pilots transform into greater men, partners, and fathers. Mastery in the sky begins with owning our shit on the ground, so if you're a man who wants it all, welcome home. Hey everybody, what's up? This is Ari in the Air. Welcome back to the channel. Stoked you're here. Today, I want to break down a video from YouTube that shows some really common mistakes that beginner, intermediate, and even advanced pilots make in collapse recovery. Okay, so let's get right into this. We've got this Chili. He's flying, takes a big collapse, huge shoot, another big collapse, glider stalled, shoots again, and recovers. Seems kind of benign from here, but there's actually some big mistakes that he's making that I want you to understand. So he plays a slow-mo version of it for us. So let me walk you through this in slow-mo and I'll tell you what's happening here. He's flying along. He's at trim speed. There's no speed bar. As you can see here, I've paused it and the leading edge is beginning to crumple. It is about an 80% collapse. This is a really common configuration for gliders to go into. So many of these collapse videos that I've shown you have shown a 15% wing still flying on the open side. So what does that mean is going to happen? That is going to fly first. That means it's going to turn hard left. Look at his weight shift here. His head is behind the left riser. What are the fundamentals of collapse recovery? You always weight shift the open side. Okay, so now we're weight shifted towards the closed side, even though the glider is way over to one side, right? So it's easy for him to make this fundamental error of being weight shifted on the closed side. He does have eyes on the glider, which is really good. As we see what happens here, he's basically hands up, but he has a little bit of brake pulled. This is a huge problem. Modern paragliders, if you are going to go hands up, you need to go all the way hands up. There are many videos on YouTube. I would point you in the direction of Flying Carless. He has some conversations with Bruce Goldsmith, and it just goes to show, if you're pulling just a little bit of brake, the glider shoots harder. Okay, not softer. The glider shoots harder if you have just a little bit of brake, about 5% brake input, glider shoots harder. So if you're going to go hands up in collapse recovery, it's incredibly important that hands up is hands up. Okay, so like I promised, I'm going to give you 3 basic tips here, 3 buckets of tips at least. First thing is weight shift. Look at where his weight is right now. His head is even left of the left riser. That was the closed side of the glider. So as far as being weight shifted over to the flying side of the glider, that's not happening right now, okay? The other thing is he's pulling a little bit of brake on both sides. He does have his eyes on the glider. That's a good thing. So number 1 is weight shift. Number 2 is the timing of the catch. Remember, the fundamentals of paragliding is the glider goes behind you, you go hands up, the glider comes in front of you, you go onto the brakes. In collapse recovery, the timing of your brake input is actually really important. If you take a big collapse and the glider goes back and you put your hands up and it starts to move forward and you pull the brakes, you actually risk a stall. So a good rule of thumb is as the glider starts to pass overhead, like right when you're under the glider, is a good time to begin applying the brakes to catch the surge. If you do it too early, you can risk stalling the glider, especially if it still hasn't fully inflated again. And if you wait too late, then you risk not being able to catch the surge completely and taking a big frontal. In this case, he's actually going to do both. So he's kind of holding on the brakes and it makes a really hard surge. As we go forward here, what you see is he's weight shifting left really hard and he's actually pulling left brake a lot, right? The glider is beginning to open. But look at his right hand. His right hand is only at the speed bar. This means he's pulling now 12% brake or something. As the glider shoots really hard, both brakes can be symmetrical here, and he needs to pull both brakes below the seat board until the glider stops progressing towards the horizon. And the moment that it stops progressing towards the horizon, let go of the brakes and let yourself swing under. But that's not what happens. He's timid on the right brake here. So as we go forward, you see he's timid, he's timid, he's timid. Look at right here. As the glider starts to collapse on the right side, we can see the wing is starting to fold under on the right side. His hand is only parallel with the carabiner. Okay, so this hand basically needed to be below the seat board, and symmetrical brake input here would have been totally fine, but he doesn't pull enough brake to stop the glider from progressing towards the horizon. He was a day late and $1 short. So as we go forward, Now, there's actually two things happening right here that may seem confusing, it's easy to let it slip past. But what's actually happening here, he's pulling a lot of left brake. He kind of fixated on the left side of the glider, right? Big left side collapse. The glider was leaned over to the right. He was weight shifting left, even though the left side of the glider was the collapse side. He's also pulling a lot of left brake. And now as the glider passes him and begins to collapse, he's unconsciously pulling the left brake. So this is the third bucket of tip, right? We did weight shift, we did timing of catch. And now the awareness of your hands is really, really, really important, okay? Because what happened here was he started to pull a lot of left brake in recovery. And what happens now, the right glider is collapsing while the left glider is stalling. If we look at the trailing edge here, it's all curled up, and watch what happens as we scrub forward in the video. The left wing is actually going backwards, right? It's stalled, and it actually flies over into the collapsed side in tail slide, right? So the left side, as we play it back, watch, the left side is in tail slide and it's flying backwards, and it collapses into the other side of the glider backwards, which is a lot better than forwards, right? This is like an inverse cravat. Like, it's no problem. You just let the glider fly. It'll open like this. But he's doing this because he's pulling the left brake. So now, as we watch, the left wingtip is fully folded back in tail slide, and now this thing is in a ball. And now it starts shooting, and he's letting up on the brakes. But still like a lot of left brake there, right? Too much. The glider is restalling, and he's letting up on the brakes, and it flies away. Okay, so becoming really conscious of where your brake input actually is, because in a situation like this, it can be very scary, it can be very jarring, it can be jolting. It's like, this is why nervous system regulation and being able to breathe through your flight and really being able to visualize accident recovery, all these various mindset tools and maturation in your somatic sense as a man is all really important. Because what happens here is, as we go back over it one more time here to summarize, glider takes a huge collapse. He's weight shifted to the wrong side. He's pulling a little bit of brake unconsciously, which makes the glider shoot even harder. He doesn't check it on the right side as much as he should, which causes it to collapse, while simultaneously he's pulling too much brake on the left side, which causes it to stall. It tail slides into itself. He then is just on a bunch of left brake, and then finally the glider begins to fly, and he relents on the brakes enough to have it fly away. So weight shift the flying side of the glider. It doesn't matter if it's flying way over there. Just get under the flying side of the glider. Timing the catch. Wait until the glider goes behind you. Go hands up as the glider begins to come over your head and you're under it. That's the time to pull the brakes, and you pull as much brake as you need to stop the glider from progressing towards the horizon. The moment that it stops progressing towards the horizon, you let up on the brakes so that you don't go into what we saw, which was another stall and a big, more event. This is how people cascade, okay? Overhandling, unconscious handling of the glider. They're not sure what their hands are doing, and accidental stalls. So I hope this is helpful. Thanks so much to whoever this pilot is. Hopefully he finds this on the internet and this is useful. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.